light into your life.
All right. Tonight we celebrate the Feast of Coverings. It is a very important feast, as if any of them were not. And I ask every year, why would we celebrate the Day of Coverings, the Day of Atonement, after we celebrate the return of our King? Seems kind of odd, right? It is because he didn't come this year, and we are celebrating one more year to get our hearts right. One more year to overcome our Torah rebellion, our sin. Or is it possible that we are celebrating what happened on the day that we entered into the consummation phase of our marriage with our Messiah? Have you ever wondered why the Lord had to die on the cross? Well, that's very Christian. Let's put this another way. Have you ever wondered why the sacrifices that were made by the Kohen Hagadol, the high priest, and the sacrifices by the Kohen below him, year in and year out, was never good enough? And at one time, if you're a Jewish person from 1,000, 2,000, say 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, you used to believe, or you would have believed, that Mashiach was going to come and make an offering. And that sacrifice, that offering, would be the end of the sacrificial system itself. Why do I know that? Well, because Hosea said it. Hosea said it. I'll help myself out. I don't know where that came from. Hosea was his name, but I said Hosea, and it just came out. Eliyahu said it, Daniel said it, Yirmiyahu said it, and on down the line, right? The Torah said it. Yeah, we would have known this many years ago. But when those who reject Yeshua came along, and I'm talking, the rabbis, what we call sages now, back ends from the 400s. You don't find that in the Mishnah, so you can't push it into the Mishnah. So I'm going to have to drop back past the 400s. Honestly, the bad mouthing of Yeshua as Mashiach didn't really start until the Dark Ages. Because again, it's not in the Mishnah. You certainly don't find it in the Targums. Targum Jonathan is actually very Mashiach oriented, very much for Mashiach, very much about Mashiach. It's very heavy in that book, and that's not New Testament. That can't even possibly be considered Christian. The Apocrypha was for it. I'm just saying, there was a time when all the Jews were for it, but then you get into the Dark Ages, and all of a sudden Jesus was bad. Well, why was Jesus bad in the Dark Ages? Well, what was happening? The Catholics were coming along and locking up, gathering up all the Jews in the towns and throwing them inside their synagogue and locking them in there and setting it on fire and marching around their building, singing songs that are still in Christian hymn books to this very day. So yeah, there's kind of we don't really care for the Jesus guy, right? And don't tell me Jesus isn't in the Talmud. He is all over the Talmud, right? Well, Yeshua, they don't know who Jesus was back then. They didn't even have a J in the American alphabet at that time because, it barely existed at that time. Just throwing that out there. So a lot of stuff that we think of today as being the way it was at the beginning simply isn't true. The Apostle Paul did not convert from Judaism to Christianity. Christianity didn't exist while he was alive. You can't get Christianity in any way, shape, or form until after Constantine won his war. And if you look at the evidence, Constantine was never a Christian, ever. Christianity did not come in his lifetime. When he built the relief, if you go to Rome and you see the big roundy building there in Rome where they used to toss the Christians to the lions, oh, come on. Come on. One, the word Christian didn't even exist in that time. The English language didn't exist in that time. The word church didn't exist. The word Christian didn't exist. None of that existed. There were no Christians there. No Christianity for anyone to convert to. No Christians were thrown to the lions. None. These were Jews. They were Jews who some wore the ziot, some didn't. All of their men wore their beards back then. And to think that the Romans were all shaves every day, no, they weren't. No, they weren't. The only time they shaved their face is if they were sitting, because it made them look younger. I mean, as early as the 1st century CE, we know that Roman men were dyeing their hair. We know that they cut their hair to make themselves look younger, and it was all about looking younger. And we know that on special occasions they shaved their faces, but that was not something they did every day. Because if you were going to get your face shaved back then, and your hair dyed and stuff like that, you were going to a beautician. And back in those days, that was one of the most expensive things you could do. So it was for the rich people. It wasn't for the poor people. So yeah, the kings, the people that you see that they've done a bust of, they always have a shaved face. But they did not live their life that way. So coming back to Constantine. Constantine builds this arch, Constantine's Arch as it's called nowadays. And it's just, I don't know, less than a football field